You're welcome back to a new day. Time now to do some sports, of course, the segment that I love most. And last night it was exciting, especially if you were a member of the ASU, what we call the Against Supporters Union of the World. All against Chelsea, and what a pleasure it was seeing Basel do that to Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, and the happy one became the missing one. Anyway, we are going to talk about football hooliganism. Here in Ghana, we haven't had any reported issue, nothing major since, of course, the May 9 stadium disaster. This Sunday, it's a face-off between Accra Hearts of Oak and title holders Kumasi Asante Kotoko here in Accra. Kickoff is 3 p.m. If you don't have your ticket yet, well, it will go on sale very soon. You need to be at the stadium. To discuss this issue this morning is Henry Asante Chum. He's a sports editor at Radio XYZ, and then James Oyedeji, also a footy analyst. Good to see both of you here. Let's start with the local scene. The games are not too interesting to warrant hooliganism, is it, in recent times?
Well, there has been few incidents. Last season, for instance, there was one game in Kumasi between Kotoko and Midiama. Yeah. There were few, incidents in that particular game which resulted in Kotoko's ban.
Are they still serving that ban?
Yeah, they have finished serving it. Yeah. Okay. Their last game away from Kumasi was on Sunday, where they played against Aduana Stars at the Sunyane Coronation Park. So it means that they will return to Kumasi in their next home game after this House of Oak game. We haven't recorded too many hooliganisms. It's not that many, because aside a Kotoko House of Oak game where you have 30 to 35,000 people in the stands, the rest of the matches are not well patronized. So I think that might be the reason why we haven't recorded too many incidents. But that notwithstanding, I think that we still have to talk about it because it's not the best. And I am happy particularly for that the production of this show, the producers of this show have chosen to talk about this particular topic prior to an important game like what will happen on Sunday. So I think that we have made strides, we've improved, we've come very far, and it's looking quite good. Yeah,
so security has improved then, in the league centers.
Oh, sure. The security has not been a major problem, because at the pre-match conferences, you hear the security personnel, the head, the representative, assuring fans and ensuring that security is adequate. And moreover, we've seen, like he said, I'm very happy that he's here. It's a long time. There's been a lot of cross-pollination of the supporters groups. In those days, or some Dudu told me, when Kotoko played House of Folk in Kumasi and they lost, they had to feed the House of Folk supporters and vice versa. You understand that? There was a sort of friendship through rivalry. That has been our trademark. In this country, this God's own country, the degree of hooliganism is very low. But don't be deceived. If you go by this narrow definition, then it doesn't exist. If you open the definition a bit, it exists to a very large extent. Now
open the definition.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Okay. Now, when you now take a look away from the two rival groups and look at the man at the center, his performance.
The referee.
Yeah, the referee, with his assist, can provoke a group of people into violent acts. And the violent act is the right definition for hooliganism in sports. Yeah. And when you go to the extreme to show how you feel, if you describe you as a sports fan, then I will now change that title to a devotee, a worshipper of a particular athlete or a team. So when that team loses, then you feel that you are not part of this world. You either want to leave the world because of the loss. We've seen cases. You saw Asek Memosa when they lost to Orlando Pirates in Abidjan. Many people were dying even after the match. 1950, Rio de Janeiro, the Brazilians died because they lost to USA. They couldn't. So many cases. So this is another dimension. And the wider dimension is the management of the matches. You're talking of Kumasi Asante Kotoko playing in Kumasi Stadium, Baba Yara Stadium. Is there a difference between Kotoko and Kumasi and Accra? It's almost the same. Yeah. You have a very large followership. They're talking, let's use Baba Yara, 42,000 capacity, and you sell tickets for 42,000. You are just creating an avenue for chaos. You have to leave at least 5,000 unsold tickets to enable for human movement, so that people will enjoy their stay they will also go back to those days when we were members of the Ghana Young Pioneers and the Boys Brigade. We walk through the fans and give them water or whatever they need.
But these days it doesn't happen. Okay, we'll pick on the issues one after the other. Let's start with officiating. It has been a bane. Of course, you also have referees who haven't been paid for a period of time. And so they're entering another season cash-strapped, and we expect them to be as objective as possible. That won't happen, would it? Well, and as he rightly said, it's also a route.
Exactly. I mean, for instance, in 2001, I mean, it is obvious that the Kotoko fans who started throwing missiles at the referee was as a result of what they perceived to be an offside goal scored by Ishmael Ado. And the referee ignored it, House of Oak scored, and then they were pushed to do that. I have made this argument a number of times where I feel that it is not professional to run a professional league, so-called, and referees are not paid for a period of 2 seasons, and you still expect them to give off their best when a new season starts. It is simply not the best. You know, then you just have to abandon the competition that you are playing. But as professional as they are, there is a motivation, because if you perform well, you have the opportunity to officiate on the continent. You still can go and officiate outside the continent. You have the chance to officiate in international matches.
But it doesn't come often.
It's the only motivation. It doesn't come often. And you know, you have 4 or 5 matches in a year. It's obviously not enough. You understand? So I feel that on that score, the FA is to blame for that particular one. If the sponsor is not paying, and so therefore there is no money to pay the referees, look for another option. Because obviously there must be a motivation. You want to do away with corruption. Anytime you talk about bribery allegations here and there, they tell you it doesn't exist. But it exists. You know, you want to do away with corruption, you don't pay the official. He travels from Accra to Tamale to officiate a game. He comes back without his money. A whole season ends, there is no money. He goes into another season, there is no money. So that official psychologically would be tempted to do something, and that can also prompt a supporter who will feel, you know, unsatisfied by the performance of a referee to throw a missile. Another person will follow. It will go on and on and on, and that could end up, you know, in a chaos or in a disaster. So as James said, I think that, yeah, to some extent I agree with him. But let's not also forget that education is very important. When you go to the stadium, you have to put it at the back of your mind that there are 3 things in football. It's either you win, you lose, you draw. Yesterday Chelsea lost. They walked away. 20 years ago, yeah, nicely. 20 years ago, hooliganism in England was worse. Yes. 15 years ago, it was a disaster. But education has gone on. They started marketing their games. They improved their infrastructure, and now there is a vast improvement. And that is where we have to. That is exactly what we need to inculcate into our game.
Let's talk about officiating. Has it changed much over the years?
There's been a lot of improvement. Ironically,
in terms of remuneration, I mean.
Oh yes, in terms of remuneration, because we have
don't get it on time.
Oh, we are together.
In the Division 1 League, for instance, 3 years they haven't been paid.
Henry,
3 seasons. Is a fact.
No, you see, when you are talking of facts, you have to put it in perspective. The chairman of
which
the RAG.
Perspective again?
Yes.
If they haven't been paid, they haven't been paid.
They haven't been paid, James.
You see, this thing is not a straitjacket issue.
Okay.
Because the chairman of RAG, Referees Association of Ghana, and the chairman of, I think, the Referees Appointment Committee have come to explain. You see, the explanation is better than the silence we used to express those days.
Okay.
They say even though they have not been paid, I'm trying to quote Mr. Kotti.
They will still perform.
Yeah, exactly. So
it doesn't make it right.
But it doesn't make it
you
right.
Don't understand. I'm not justifying the non-payments or the delayed payments. I'm not justifying that. But I'm talking of their own contribution. The fact that they identify themselves as the catalysts to develop the game.
Well, communication means everything.
Yes, because they've communicated, and then we don't have a sponsor. Do we not have a sponsor? I don't know what
according to the FA, they are still the title sponsor.
So they are still looking elsewhere. They are still looking elsewhere.
But the sponsorship money has been reduced by 30%.
Shamefully.
So let's go to the referees in particular.
Yes.
Most of these referees, they're high level. I want to assure you.
The Premier League referees?
The Premier League referees, majority of them have second degrees. So this is not their full-time job.
It doesn't matter.
No, I'm trying to. Oh, why don't you allow me?
Okay, go on. Does it matter if it's full-time, quarter-time,
Yeah, it matters.
part-time?
That is why in the English FA, they have to introduce professional refereeing in football. You understand? You don't do any other thing. You close your jacket, you put your whole knowledge
they
into
are full-time employees.
Full-time employees, full-time. But here we have part-time. Let's take my friend Nunu. I mean, I know where he works at audit service. He's a senior staff. And all of them, they are there. Wellington is an international consultant to FIFA. Corte is everywhere. No, so, I mean, like you said, there's a lot of incentive. The motivation is not necessarily that you'll be in the middle of international matches only. No, the fact that you can go and do a seminar, you can give talks. I called Wellington the other time, so I'm in Liberia. I called him the following day, so I am in Kenya. You see that type of thing. It means that your quality as a good referee has been recognized. 2, there's also been improvement on the part of the organizers. I'm talking of the PLB. I'm not going to dull Division 1. I'm talking of PLB. A lot of efforts have been made to ensure that the referee is equipped, at least to some extent, pecuniary, than in those days where you are stranded at, no plan station. Now you see them at the Kotika airport looking for their flight.
With their pocket money.
Oh, I said they're equipped. It's like you are not relating to me this morning. I said they're equipped to some extent. You understand? Those days they go empty-handed. I will give you a
but
case.
Now they go with something.
Yes.
But I don't understand those days they go empty-handed and going for a season without money.
Those days it is stated that the home team will take care of the referee. So what the home team did those days, let me use the past, was to make the referee very comfortable and expect what? A return. But now the referee can go and pay his own hotel bill, okay? Check in, check out after the match.
But if the referee hasn't been paid, I'm wondering which hotel the referee will be putting up.
You are talking of the categorization of
the referee should be in a 5-star, 4-star.
Okay, I'm not giving you, let me give you a very simple scenario. A referee is giving $300. You are going to Takwa. Okay. Takwa.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. The highest hotel, there's no 3-star, $5
maybe $80 a night.
Oh, $8. We are talking of CDs.
You quoted dollars.
You're going to change it at to do before going. It's going to melt it before going. So what I'm trying to say in a nutshell.
The point is that once the referees are not well paid or well motivated, there is a tendency for them to take money from here, from there, and it causes a lot of problems, like he rightly put it.
So when you now listen to me, I said that we have traveled a very difficult.
You're not landing. You're still traveling. I want you to land.
Oh, now we now look upon the sponsorship deal to earmark a significant portion, not only for the FA and the clubs, and also for the referees. You know, before they were wearing black. We were always laughing at them that they are always going to funeral grounds. But now you see them in designer clothes. It's part of the
Which one is the designer clothes?
Oh, don't you see the beautiful dresses the referees wear these days?
Are they beautiful?
Oh, they are. Oh. They are very shiny, very attractive. In fact, even they are, yes, in fact, they look more like showbiz people than those days the referees like those days the referees look like
a zombie.
No, like village school headmasters.
Oh my
you see them, then you get that. But now you can interact with them. They know the laws of the game very well. Some of them are even very good footballers. If I give you a list of names, they can even play.
Let's move away from officiating to management of the stadiums. This game on Sunday, of course, nothing under floodlights. We're going to be there at 3 p.m. and then we just go through the 90 minutes and we're out. Would you say that indeed he mentioned filling the stadium? You mentioned 42,000 and selling 42,000 tickets. I doubt if the stadium will be packed to the rafters anyway.
It happens. I think 3 seasons ago, Kotoko had a vote in Kumasi when the then CEO of Kotoko was caught taking money from supporters
and putting it into
a Zoom Lion container or whatever. The stadium was full to capacity. People started collapsing because there was no space. They didn't have enough fresh air, and that resulted in a lot of casualties. The fire service men at the stadium that they really worked. I was at the Kumasi Sports Stadium. But the point is that management is very key. In Europe, for instance, the Camp Nou can take 120,000 people, but UEFA says 70,000 maximum. Leave the other space for other things. If you go to Wembley, the same thing happens. You don't fill the stadium fully. You need to leave space
But we do that
for emergencies. It has happened before. And I had a chance to read the recommendations of that committee, which was put together by the late John Evans at Tamils, and they suggested that tickets must not be sold out, either when they are selling it out, in advance. They should check very well how much they put out there in advance and how much tickets they will sell.
I'm sorry, I have to cut in rudely. Talking about management of our stadium.
Yeah, I feel that yes, I was coming from that particular incident in Kumasi, where they had to even spray oxygen into the stands for people to have enough oxygen to breathe. But from that incident, I think there has been an improvement. The two teams have played, I think, 4 times. They have engaged themselves in even friendly matches at both centers. We had no casualty or whatsoever. It has improved. And one commendation must also go to the Ghana Football Association for putting a security committee together. I mean, they have experts. For instance, the chairman of that committee is an ex-military person. His vice is also a police officer, and they have security experts on that committee. So before a game is played, they do a lot of deliberations. They come up with strategies how to control the crowd. Over the years, it didn't used to be like that. But once that committee, since that committee was put in place, I think that we have seen an improvement. They're working hand in hand with the national security and the police service, and it has been good as far as security and management of the crowd is concerned.
Would you agree that security
totally, 100 over 100, or is it 10 over 10?
I don't know.
One other thing we should remember is that between the two clubs, the two glamorous clubs, they are all this. Yeah. Those who really made name in terms of football play, in terms of individual artistry, in terms of knowing the technique of the game. I'm talking of people like Polo, Debra and Co. have been playing against each other. I think Kotoko won.
Yeah.
Because
3 weeks ago or so.
Yes, they drew here, they won in Babera. And one other thing, the coming on board of Motagbe, Neil Armstrong, is going to ensure that the stadium will be filled up. Motagbe is a consultant. He was a consultant of FIFA on marketing and sponsorship. So he has been on the airwaves.
Well, maybe they should borrow some ideas from him to market the Premier League.
Because he is now the MD, he is now the managing director of Accra.
I know, but I'm saying that maybe the GFA should talk to him about ideas.
If I know Nell very well, he's an integral part of DFA. The good Lord calls him. He's always there with them.
Then we need to see some very concrete changes. But before the two of you go, before we wrap up here, you are very active. Yesterday, I had to rant about how Kotoko and Hearts managers refused to grant interviews to reporters ahead of a big clash like that. What is wrong with
I feel that the bus stops at the FA. For instance, 2 seasons ago, Alex Ferguson never wanted to speak to the BBC. Yes. Then who makes sure the right thing is done? The Football Association, the league organizers. Look, if you don't talk to the BBC, they are a sponsor. They are entitled for interviews. You have to give it to them. The FA must make it a law that nobody must decline talking to the press. No official of any club. Because it's part of the build-up. Exactly. If you want sponsors to come on board, you have to hype the matches. You need to hype the competition. I became so worried when I heard on radio that Duncan has decided not to talk to anybody prior to matches, but he will grant post-match interviews.
Who needs it?
I don't know. After the match, I'm not bothered about what you will say, but I want to be attracted to the game.
Yes.
And the only thing that will make me come to the stadium is what you will tell me, and then vis-a-vis what the opponent will also tell me. So I think the buck stops at the FA. If the FA makes it a law, the PLB, the league organizers. The league organizers, they must enforce, they must make sure that, one, coaches speak to the media. And also I know Ibrahim Sani has an international journalism job at the GFA, and he knows at BBC, and he knows it is not something you can decline to do in Europe. It is a must. You can't say no. So I think that once the law is in place and they make sure that it is enforced, then the coaches will have no other rights than to grant interviews to the media.
By extension,
sometimes you are even sacked from teams' training grounds. a media man is going for interviews, and the fans tell you, hey, don't come and cover our training. Go
Maybe
away.
it's part of the superstition that if you grant an interview, you will lose.
Just taking the heat out of me.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
I said by extension, then we should be held responsible. What is holding the right to information bill? What is holding it? If that is there, and the sponsors also make it part of their input, that the interview should be held before and after the match. Not only from the coaches, from the administrators, especially the medical team. We tend to look at this game as if it is a one-pillar game. No, it is not only the technical part, the administrative part, and the medical part. You saw what happened to your brother Kevin Watson. He came down, and at the end of the day, he couldn't play because of information about his physical fitness. This is unacceptable to me as a person and as somebody who wants to go to Rio de Janeiro. Now, I want to tell you another thing. This day, I want to congratulate Joe Ajao because he's a sportsman. And I want everybody to know that the vice president of this country is a big shareholder in Accra Asofo, and his team is going to play. The president himself, number one, is also a director of RTU.
RTU, yeah.
You see, so
and Otumfuo is behind Kotoko.
no, Otumfuo is. Oh, don't let me say things that. So what I'm trying to say is that
you are sharing,
it's like this country is blessed with people who have combined not their normal day-to-day work with sports. And please create another forum between me and my younger one.
I will.
Yes. Then let me also congratulate you for bringing out this topic. But there's a sister issue, that's racism. You see, when you talk of hooliganism,
we don't have racism in Ghana, do we?
Oh, now you talk of ethnicism.
Okay.
Racism.
Do I sing a song?
Is in Ghana.
I want to tell you something. When I was,
I'll bring you back. We'll talk about this. Oh, you want to finish that one?
No, let's take a
day.
I know. He has too many stories. Thank you very much, Henry, and then James Oyedeji. And he was born on a park.
Yes.
Yeah. He's told me that story before.
Yeah.
He's a secondary man.
Yeah.
He's a Jembu Park boy. Yeah, Jembu Park boy.
Please, on a very sad note, we lost our brother
Emmanuel Kwashi. Yeah. May his soul rest in peace.
Yes, and Emmanuel Kwashi, if people didn't know, is adored not only in Ghana. No, not only in Ghana, not only in Egypt, but in Nigeria as well.
Okay.
And then when he went to the United Arab Emirates, they still asked of him. And do you know the slogan in Egypt? Yeah. Koshe, where is Koshe? Koshe is gone.
Yeah, right. It's quite sad. I think I was with Zamalek officials last year when they came to play Brecum Chelsea. They asked of him immediately. They landed at the airport. They asked of him, and I told them he was ill. So that is where they got the link to send for him from Second D to take him to Egypt for that operation.
Bless you. All right, so that'll be it for sports.